Hi, my name is Casey Horn. I'm a licensed therapist and owner of Champion Families Counseling. And today I want to talk to you about anxiety. And I'd like to teach you some techniques of dealing with anxiety. But first, let's talk about what anxiety is. Anxiety is fear-based or worry-based, and it's an energy. It's very different from depression. Depression is more mood, sadness, lethargic, losing your appetite or having too much appetite, things like this, or sleeping too much. That's more depression. Anxiety is more fear. It's an energy. Often people will have what we call panic attacks or anxiety attacks, which are pretty much the same thing. So what's happening in those attacks, your brain is trying to go into a fight or flight mode. And in that fight or flight mode, it's sending adrenaline to your extremities so that you can do one or the other. So there's an energy buildup that's happening. So people with anxiety will often say that they can't sleep at night, they can't function daily, they can't focus during the day, they can't get some of the things that they want done, which then will in turn cause depression, or depression can cause anxiety. So I want to give you some techniques of different ways of dealing with this. And listen, what works for one person may not work for you, okay? What works for you may not work for your friend. And so you've got to brainstorm and get some ideas and do some research to try different things of what might work for you. There are some practical ways, and at the end of this video, I'm gonna share an illustration, a fun illustration that I'm excited to teach you. So stick around, and we'll get to that in a moment. So the first technique is mindfulness exercises or mindfulness breathing. This is a favorite of some people. I've walked some of my own clients of mindfulness exercises. There are apps that you can get on your phone or your device that can walk you through mindfulness exercises. What mindfulness exercises do? It's kind of like meditation. In its design is, one, to help your heart rate to slow down, and two, to stop your brain, your mind from racing with all the racing thoughts that will happen when you're having anxiety. And so that mindfulness technique can help you just kind of calm down. They don't work for me. So remember how I said what works for one person doesn't work for another? They don't work for me. They work for a lot of my clients, and a lot of my clients, they love doing this, but I just can't. And there are different reasons why that I don't like them. And the other thing that I will often teach, and this is one that many people have not really heard about, is doing some sort of exercise in that moment. So if you're having a panic attack, anxiety, or just feeling anxious, doing something physical to burn that adrenaline, because again, like I said, you've got adrenaline that's going to throughout your body to give you strength to be able to run away or to fight. So if you spend that energy, then the anxiety may alleviate or go away, or at least lessen. So doing something like jumping jacks, push-ups, punching a punching bag, or punching something that's not going to break your hand. So it's some way of expending that energy. So I teach that to a lot of people. It works a lot. Obviously, you can't do that while you're driving down the road. And I do remember I was in a 10K a couple of years ago, and I had a little small anxiety. And I wouldn't say anxiety attack, but it was a high level of anxiety at the 5.5 mark of the race, because I was anxious about the finish line that was coming up. So obviously I was spending energy, and I still had some anxiety. So like I said, there's no cookie cutter way of dealing with anxiety. The other technique that I want to teach you, and this is my illustration, and this is going to be fun for me. And I hope it's fun for you, but I've got this little guy here. This represents you. Okay, this is you, and you're trying to face the world as this timid little bunny. But let me preface this. I'll pause 1 second. I often will get clients that will come in that have said that they've tried to get counseling from a pastor or even from a Christian friend, and they've come in frustrated saying all they tried to teach me was, you need to pray more. Okay, I don't want to sound like that. I don't want to sound hyper spiritual, but I do believe this works because it has worked for me, and just hear me out, okay? So this is you, right? This is your anxiety. This is you. get my thoughts here straight. This is your anxiety. This is you daily trying to face and conquer your anxiety. This little you and your anxiety. I kind of picture this as you and your bully. Okay, your bully is intimidating, and you are trying to deal with this on your own. And some people are watching this, going, "Yeah, that's how it feels. It's overwhelming. I don't feel like I can ever overcome this problem that I have." So you're facing your anxiety alone. As Christians, though, we know we're not alone, and we know that God is there, and so here is God. Now, he's so huge that he doesn't even fit on the screen all the way, so I'm going to bring him down here. This is giant robot Batman, and as you can tell, I have children. And I can even make him a little bigger with, let's see, his wings come out, and you get these bigger fists that come out here, and he's got missiles, and the missiles will shoot. So obviously, this represents God, okay? And even though you can't see his head, and I think that's even perfect, because obviously this compared to this, God is bigger than our anxiety and our problems. But here's what happens, though. We as Christians, though, we will pray, God help me. God help me, God help me. But the whole time we're still facing our fear. God help me with my 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 anxiety. Help me with my problem. And so we're kind of seeing God as our Santa Claus in a way. But the whole time we're still facing our fear. We're still looking at our fear. So because we can still see it, we still see our bully, we still see our fear, we're still afraid, even though God is standing right here. So now imagine this is your bully, you're facing your bully, and this guy, your father, walks up behind you. Now, obviously, this guy will at this point be shaking in his boots. He knows he has no power over you and your life anymore. But you can't see that because you're not facing your father. You're facing the fear. So what I would like for you to try to do is to do this, to turn around and not just face your fear. I wish I could do this in a different way. And I've done this illustration in a youth group before. And what I did was I had a father and a son, and I told the son to turn around and face his father. And I said, look at him. There's your father. And then the boy didn't know his father had walked up. And this guy was huge. He was 6'3", 6'4", big guy. And I had this, I had like a 12-year-old versus a 16-year-old in the illustration. I said, but that's not enough. That's not what I want you to do. I want you to hug your father. So I don't know how to get this guy to hug this father, but what I do have here is Robot Batman. He has this little compartment where Batman sits. So I'm going to put you here. And this is going to represent you hugging your father. So so if you are hugging face toward your father, your heavenly father, and you're hugging him, you're loving on him, can you see your fear? Can you see your bully? No, you cannot. Obviously you can't, because you're facing your father. Instead of going, God help me with my fear, God help me with my fear, why not just focus on who God is and how big he is? And listen, every character in the Bible dealt with anxiety. All of them, including Jesus. If you'll go back and read the story of when Jesus was in the garden praying right before he was crucified, he had anxiety so much that his sweat was like blood. Didn't say it was blood, but it was like blood. The guy was anxious. And we can get into a theological discussion about that, but he was anxious. Okay, if Jesus can be anxious, so can you. But what Jesus did there in that scene, he then said, but not my will, yours be done. He turned around and faced his father. David, King David, who faced a giant, killed a giant. After he killed a giant, he still struggled with anxiety, and you can see it in his writings in Psalms. He'll say, my anxiety is so strong within me that my bones ache. But then he'll write that. He'll then turn around and go, but God, you are my strength. You are my shield. You are my stronghold. You are my provider. You are my help. Just continue to remind himself who God was, how big he was, instead of facing the anxiety. So what am I saying here? What's the answer? I'm saying focus on who your Heavenly Father is. Worship him. And I know this may sound strange, but be intimate with the Father. Find a way to be intimate with the Father. Okay, if you can do that, this will melt away. And you may have all these different ideas of what intimacy with the Father means, but just God, I love you. I love you so much. And remind yourself, just like David, even maybe read the Psalms of reminding yourself, you are my rock, my shield, my fortress. You protect me. You are my Prince of Peace. Things like this, and just in worship. Now, listen, I don't want to sound hyper spiritual. I said that before, but I believe this works. So you can try the exercising technique when you're having anxiety attack. You can try the mindfulness techniques, but I also want you to try this. It may not cure it permanently, but at least in the moment, especially when you're having a panic attack, I believe this works. I believe this will help you in that moment, because your Father in heaven is big enough, I mean, look at this, to conquer your fear and your anxiety and whatever it is that you're facing. Okay? So if you like this video, I will have many more to come. So subscribe to my channel. If you want to reach out to me, if you've got questions about things or you want to schedule a session, you're free to do that. My website, which should be here on the page, is championfamiliescounseling.com. That's Champion Families, plural. You can shoot questions my way. I'll be happy to answer them. And again, if you want to schedule a session, I also offer video sessions, so you don't have to come in face to face. That's really convenient for some people. But yeah, so reach out, subscribe to my channel, and thanks for listening. Thanks.